Hey everybody, it's Courtney here. Welcome back to the channel. I wanted to do something a little different today. I am not great at editing videos. I don't know how actually at all. And without Charlie, who is the video shooter and editor, I am no bueno. But I did want to take this opportunity to give you a little bit more authentic story about the last year, and I want to share with you my breast cancer diagnosis journey. This channel is obviously about triathlon and running and getting in great shape and being super healthy, and I don't think it would be genuine and authentic if I didn't share this journey with you, because I've learned so much along the way. And I get a lot of questions from women and friends and contacts who have recently, unfortunately, been diagnosed with breast cancer or a type of cancer. And I figured that one of the best ways that I can help people is to share this story with them. So there's no editing. This is just me. This is my first time really doing a video like this. But again, this is who I am. I'm very passionate about helping other people. And so I totally get it. This is not necessarily a running or triathlon video, although that does play a role in this story. So, if this isn't your thing, I get it. I never wanted the channel to be all about cancer, which is why I've only shared, certain parts of it in the short videos. But I felt like I owed it to you guys to share what's been going on this year and why I did not do the 50K and the 50 miler last year. And so in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you the bullet point timeline for those that don't want to listen to this whole story, and kind of a timeline of my diagnosis and where I'm at now. And for those of you that just kind of want to hang out with me and get to know the real me and hear a little bit more about this story, stick around. I'm going to give you all the details. So the short version is that I've been a pretty health conscious person my whole life, and I've been an athlete my whole life. So I've been fairly in tune with my body and stayed in pretty good shape. And in early 2024, I started training for what would have been the second 50K. And I was hoping to tackle a 50 miler running race along with, some triathlon sprinkled in there. But I found a lump in my left breast in January. And over the next, couple months, I received a diagnosis of breast cancer. I have had a double mastectomy, reconstructive surgery at the same time, followed by aggressive chemo, which ended in late October. And then I started radiation in December. So I actually finished up radiation treatment a few hours ago, and I only have 5 more to go, which will all happen next week. And then I'm done. And then I go on some hormone blocker treatment. So that's the short of it. So if that's all you wanted to know, that's it. But let's dig a little deeper for those of you who might be interested in how it all happened, what my symptoms were, why I chose the treatment and surgeries that I did, and what's in store for the future. So let's take it back to maybe 2019, because that's when I started triathlon. I've been an athlete my whole life. I was a college soccer player, and I ran my first half marathon in 2005 out in Arizona, and I caught the running bug, and I've been doing it ever since. So once I did my first triathlon, I was hooked. Most of you have probably seen the videos of my advice for first time and beginner triathletes. But in 2019, I ended up completing 9 triathlons, including Ironman, and that would come in handy last year. It would prove to be, I think, really, really important. And I'm going to get more into that later on in this video. In any event, so it was a shock diagnosis, I guess, for me, because I have been a health nut pretty much my whole life. For the last 2 decades, I've eaten a mainly organic diet. I drink my water. I've stayed in really good shape. I'm just really health conscious in general. Although we do have, my grandmother died of breast cancer, her mom died of breast cancer, and her sister died of breast cancer. So it was certainly on my radar. But I guess I thought to myself, Courtney, you're doing all these things. You wear your Garmin, you know what your resting heart rate is and your HRV and all these stats, all this data. I couldn't see anything wrong in the data. I was in good shape and training for the 50K 50 miler in early 2024. And in January, I found a lump right here in my left breast. And what were the symptoms? That was it. That was it. There were no like, oh, I don't feel good, or I have a low grade fever. There was like nothing. It was just that lump. It did not hurt. It did scare me though, just because of the family history. So I took it very seriously. At the time I had an HMO plan through, I won't name the company, but I had an HMO plan because I'm a small business owner. And so myself and my family members are on that. It was not inexpensive. It was just under $600 a month. And I quickly realized that I couldn't get in anywhere. Like I couldn't get into any primary care doctors because it was a new plan to me based on the marketplace here in my state. So I called, I think 13 potential primary care doctors, and none of them could see me for months. And the only other person, or I'm sorry, in order to get a mammogram, which was the next step, I had never had one, would be an OBGYN's office or a primary care has to like read the results of the mammogram. So despite what they say about you can get a mammogram without a referral, well, you might be able to, but a doctor has to interpret it. So they also have to order the mammogram. So the first piece of advice I would give to all the women out there, and if you're a man watching, for the women in your life, is stay on top of the mammograms for sure. I had not had one. This was my first one, and I should have started a few years ago getting my mammogram. So stay on top of the mammogram because early detection is key. But I really had to fight to get seen. And what I realized very quickly was that I was going to have to take matters into my own hands. And there's a business called HerScan, and I got a Facebook ad for it, and it said that I could basically get like a sonogram, I believe, or an ultrasound, of my breasts, because I wanted to see if they could see what I was feeling. I didn't want to wait 4 or 5 months to get into an OBGYN or a primary care to get a mammo order. I was scared. I'm not going to lie. I was terrified. So I did this. I paid out of pocket a few $100s, and sure enough, it came back in a couple weeks that there was something concerning there. Then I was really freaked out. I still, even with that, could not get in any sooner to a doctor. I broke down in tears after just going to an OBGYN. I had scheduled an appointment online, and they turned me away and said, you scheduled it online, you need to call, and you're a new patient, so we bumped your appointment back 3 weeks. I left in tears, and I just had this like knowing that like something was not right, even though I felt fine. So I begged my parents' primary care physician, even though she was out of my network, to let me pay cash and have her give me a breast exam so I could get a mammo. I did. Within a week, she obviously like ordered the mammo, got the mammo. The day I got the mammo, they said we have to biopsy this, and they scheduled me for a biopsy 2 days later. Did the biopsy 2 days later. 10 days later, I believe, I will never forget where I was driving with my mom. Probably didn't sleep at all, like hardly at all, waiting for the results. I got a call from the doctor that did the biopsy that said, I'm so sorry, it's cancer. I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. Like, you have like an out-of-body experience. You can never be prepared for that. And at the time, I just think it's like a death sentence, right? I don't know anything really about cancer or staging or any of that stuff. So that was a really, really difficult time. I was still recording like videos about triathlon because we had scheduled it. I was training for my 50K. I was thinking I was going to have like this awesome race season, and I was all excited, and it just kind of like my world just kind of like stopped, right? So if you take anything away from this video, advocate for yourself. Right? It's the same thing with fitness and health. It's like you know your body, and don't let anybody else tell you you can't be seen. Go to a different doctor, pay out of pocket. I don't care what you have to do, like as long as the pay out of pocket is reasonable and you can afford it. Fight for yourself. I also shared on social media, like with my friends on Facebook and Instagram, what was going on, and that ended up being great because there were people who I didn't know, like friends and former classmates that actually like worked in reconstructive surgery or could recommend, surgeons and things like that. Because when you hear you have cancer, it's so overwhelming. There's like so much information. So from there, I scheduled an appointment with a surgeon per the recommendation of my primary care doctor, who ended up being my parents' primary care, who, God bless her, saw me after I begged her to take me in as a client or as a patient. She told me, you should go to this hospital. After sharing my diagnosis online, which at the time was called DCIS, we found out it was non-invasive stage 0 cancer, which means it's not necessarily malignant and it should not spread. That was a relief. I was like, okay, I can tackle this. Like, I know what I'm working with now, right? Well, when I went to the surgeon's office, she said, you have a lot of calcification. So there's a chance if, that during surgery, it might be more than just stage 0. So again, back to anxiety and worry and all that. Many people ask me what the surgical options are. And I'm sharing this with you because this all happens very fast when you get a cancer diagnosis. And I think everybody's cancer is different. Everybody's mentality is different. So you always have to do what's best for you. For me, with the family history, I knew going in, I did not want what's called a lumpectomy, where they remove part of it, like part of your breast, including the cancerous portion. I did not want a unilateral mastectomy, which meant one side. I wanted both gone. Especially, I just had this feeling like I want the cancer out of my body. I don't want it to come back on the other side. I knew that a double mastectomy was a longer surgery, more complex surgery. But my thought was, I want to get this surgery over and done with. I want this cancer out of my body and I want to move on with my life. And so we scheduled it. And again, me being the annoying human being that I am, I think I bothered my surgeon's assistant a lot. I was very eager to get on her calendar. I just been mentally, it's kind of like the finish line in a race. I was like, I want to know when it is. I will sleep better at night knowing like this is the surgery date. So I think it's okay to advocate for yourself. Maybe not aggressively, maybe that's what I did, but I did. And it worked, and I got on the calendar within 3 weeks. So I want to say it was a 5.5-hour surgery. It was my first time ever having surgery. I've never had general anesthesia, so I was terrified. And I think there are some shorts videos on my page that you can check out. Like the one day that I was on my way to the hospital, I was like terrified of surgery, but surgeons did an amazing job. I also did reconstructive at the same time. There's an amazing reconstructive doctor who worked alongside my surgeon, and I did implants, small implants at the time, which I am so happy I did. There's a lot of talk out there right now about women and that insurance is, covers reconstructive when you're getting these types of surgery. And I feel so incredibly fortunate to have not only had the doctors that I had, but they were just so empathetic and compassionate and walked me through everything. So if you are considering reconstruction at the same time, definitely explore it with your doctors, because I found that even though it's an aesthetic thing, going through something like this makes you, if you do reconstructive, it makes you feel just more feminine, and it becomes a bright spot in what's really, really a tough journey. I have no regrets of getting reconstructive surgery. I'm so happy that I did. I can't imagine not having that done. Okay, so let's fast forward to the surgery. Surgery went well. They did find that 2 of the lymph nodes they biopsied out of 4 did have cancer. So back to anxiety, back to just stressing and worrying. Recovery from surgery is tough. You have drains because you're involving your entire lymph system here, and you have to be very careful with that. But again, I went to Mercy in Baltimore, and they have a renowned surgeon team there. And if you are on the East Coast and considering, going to a specialist for breast cancer, I can't recommend them enough. They've truly been amazing. So bad news. I wasn't hoping for that news after surgery, but it is what it is. I'm going to skip forward now to then I meet with an oncologist who is a different doctor after the surgeons, who's fantastic as well. And pretty sure my brain left my body during my initial meeting with her because I had not yet been staged. I had no idea what it meant. I was just terrified. I mean, my blood pressure was through the roof, and I met with her for an hour. She broke it all down for me, and I was stage 1A. So I'm not a doctor. And again, my brain kind of went into shock mode, I feel like. And so I don't recall everything, but I was relieved to know that it was stage 1A and I wasn't further along. Again, I'm so glad that I fought to get into those appointments, because who knows, if I had waited 3 or 4 months to get into a primary care to get my mammo, who knows what would have happened, right? So, again, advocate for yourself. I'm going to keep saying that. Okay, so she laid out all the options. And so there were 3 different chemo options, what I'll call low, medium, high, I don't know, for lack of a better term. Again, this is not medical advice. I'm just sharing my story and why I chose what I did. Because they thought that my cancer was stage 0 and it ended up being 1A, it means that it went to a lymph node, right? And so I chose the most aggressive form of chemotherapy because for a lot of reasons. And that's why I say this is all very personal. I'm a mom and I'm in my early 40s. I have a lot of life left to live, and I was like not going down without a fight. So I just decided, after looking at the data presented to me, that my best chances statistically, numbers wise, would be to do this aggressive chemo, which is, it's called the Red Devil. It's AC, which involves a chemo called the Red Devil, and it sucks. There's no way around it. It's just really, really hard on your body. And then followed by a protocol called Taxol. So yes, I lost my hair. Yes, this is a wig. My hair is coming back. I'm like a silver fox right now. So I opted for that one just because I'm a numbers person, and I was like, give me the stats. I want to know the stats. And so I chose that one. There were other options as well. So I definitely chose a very aggressive one. And at this point, we're doing these things proactively. I was considered cancer-free after surgery, but you can opt to do chemo and or radiation or both to try and target any cells, cancerous or precancerous cells that you might not see in a scan. And I should say I did opt for a full body scan at the recommendation of my oncologist, just to make sure it hadn't spread anywhere. I did a full CT scan and everything with contrast, and they had said, no, it has not spread. So that made me feel a little better. Like I was like, okay, I'm ready to fight this thing now. So there's no way around it. The AC, the first protocol of chemo, you do every other week, and it's over. I think mine was over 7 or 8 weeks. It was horrific. I was so sick. I mean, just so sick. Very nauseous, like the throwing up, everything. Yes, my hair started to fall out. I did use a cold cap for the first 2 sessions out of 4 with that. I had 4 total of that chemo, but I would start getting sick like pretty much an hour after finishing that chemo, and it's pretty far from my house, and I would drive home after that, and I was just like starting to get sick. So I didn't want the extra time that the cold cap added to my treatment. I needed that time to get home and get in bed. And if you're going to cold cap, it's great, but I just was very quickly over the whole cold capping thing. I'm like, I just need to get home to bed. So the cold capping is to prevent you from losing your hair. It's basically a cap that goes very snugly on your, it's very snug on your head. And they pipe in water, and it basically freezes your hair follicles so the chemo doesn't damage it. And yeah, so there's that. But I was quickly over hair and just wanted to go home and go to bed. So I stopped doing that for the last 2. Then I did Taxol, which was way easier on my body. That was once a week. And I believe I did 12 of those. So I finished chemo this past October, at the very end of October. And I did do some training in between when I could. So the first chemo was awful, and I was just trying to keep weight on and relax because I was just so sick. With the Taxol, which was August, September, and all of October, I did tend to run a few days after chemo or walk on my treadmill or get on my bike. I have had no consistent working out schedule, and that's very on purpose because my body is fighting a fight. And the best thing I could do for it most of the time was just to rest and hydrate and still move my body, right? But not tax my body. So like no high intensity stuff or anything like that. Like no real triathlon or running training. I've just done it more for mental health and just, getting out in nature and stuff like that. Okay. And so the last part of this is radiation. I didn't have to do radiation, but I wanted all the information I could get. And so I went to the radiation oncologist. So that's doctor number 4 at Mercy, Dr. Jacobs. She's amazing. And, I said, what are the pros and cons? Like as an athlete, it's very important that I don't damage my heart and my lungs. I want to run and do triathlon for a very long time. So, give me the stats, right? And like, what are my chances of a recurrence if I layer this on top of the chemo? So my understanding is if I had just done the double mastectomy and the very aggressive chemo, my chance of a recurrence was somewhere around 9%. And if I did the radiation on top of it, my chances went down of a recurrence to under 1%. So despite the fact that there can be complications and all that good stuff, I opted for radiation as well. And that's what I'm finishing up next week. Radiation has been way easier than chemo. The team is amazing. I go every day, Monday through Friday. And I believe I would have had a total of 28 radiation treatments. And what they're doing is they're radiating this entire area in order to prevent precancerous cells that we couldn't get via chemo or surgery. Things like cancer cells in the bones, which is exactly what happened to my grandmother. Hers came back, I believe, in a rib. To radiate that area to prevent a recurrence, right? So that is what I'm finishing up. And then the final step is I will go on something called tamoxifen, which is an estrogen blocker. So my type of cancer was not triple negative or HER2, but I did have elevated levels of estrogen. And that's, can lead to cancers, breast cancer specifically, and along with some other cancers, I believe. So that's where we're at. How am I feeling right now? Now I feel so much better. As soon as I stopped the chemo and my body could recover a bit, I started just feeling more like myself, and I have more energy. I do drink coffee, and that's part of it, but I feel well enough to work out and do all that good stuff. So I'm easing back into that. Let's see. What were some of the other side effects from chemo aside from getting just so nauseous and dry heaves and all the stuff? I did end up in the ER after my first chemo treatment as well overnight, and that was horrible. I was very sick. I obviously lost my hair, and I didn't know with like the second protocol of chemo that I would lose my eyebrows and eyelashes. I think that was like a little worse even than like the hair, because I ended up shaving my head. But you don't realize when you don't have eyebrows and eyelashes, like then I felt like I looked sick. I felt like, wow, I really look like a cancer patient. And for me, I just never wanted to look that way because I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me. Like I felt so grateful. This sounds so weird, but because I went through this crazy journey with insurance, which I ultimately ended up setting up insurance through one of my small businesses, which is the price of basically the cost of a mortgage every month for me, but much better insurance, and it covered everything. All right, I had to stop because I had a total brain fart. I'm like, what was I talking about? They call it chemo brain. It's a real thing. Or mom brain. Anyways, I felt so grateful to have access to the care that I did at Mercy that I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me, because I was kind of like, I feel very blessed and lucky to have access to the care. So I didn't want to like go to the grocery store and look sick, which is why I chose to wear a wig a lot. Like I didn't rock the bald head as much because it felt intrusive to me, like for somebody to even look at me and like smile. And I'm like, oh, they feel sorry for me. Like, no, I'm a warrior. Don't feel sorry for me. And so, I think that takes us to something, a really important part. I've shared this journey with you and like what I've been going through. But let's tie this to triathlon, running, and mental resilience. I believe the statistic now is like 1 in 3 people are going to be diagnosed with cancer. Maybe it's 1 in 3 women with some form of breast cancer. I don't know. That stat might be wrong, but it's a lot of people. Whatever it is, it's a lot more than when I was younger. So whether it's you or someone you know, or you've been diagnosed, whatever it is, I truly believe that your mental attitude during this whole thing is so very important. I tried my darndest during chemo and after surgery to like close my eyes and just envision like the chemo killing all the cancer cells. And I prayed because I am a Christian and I prayed hard, but I also would say thank you. Like, thank you for the care. Thank you for the surgeons. Thank you, thank you, because I know that there's many people in the world that wouldn't maybe not have the access to care that I did, or that I just had this village to surround me and support me. So I really with my whole heart believe that because I was a triathlete and a runner, that one more mile and 1 mile at a time mentality just helped me so much. Because if I had just tried to digest how far I had to go between surgery, which was May 3rd, and now today that I'm talking to you is January 11th, I think. If I had like thought about how far I had to go, it would have been so overwhelming. And I think I would have been really sad. But by taking it one day and 1 mile at a time, it gives you a different perspective. And it's like little small victories every day. No matter how bad it is, no matter how sick I got, it was like, okay, like it's the same thing in Ironman. It's the same thing in a triathlon or in a running race or any endurance sport. You can't think about the finish line when you're really far away from it. You got to just think about taking that next step and moving forward no matter how slow. So I do believe that that helped me tremendously. I had a lot of doctors and nurses say, like, you're so optimistic and happy, and you know, that's not the norm. And I thought, well, first of all, I'm early stage, and so that did help me mentally for sure, because I felt like I knew what I was up against. It doesn't mean my fight is over, and believe me, I have anxiety every day about it. But one of the best pieces of advice a nurse gave me when I was really going through it, when I was at the emergency room after my first chemo, he said, you can only control what you can control, Courtney. So you know what? If that's you shaving your head, shave it. If that's you on the days you feel good going out in your garden and gardening or petting your little dog who's been asleep, this is Milo, he's been asleep on my lap, then do it. You just control what you can control, and the rest, you just got to give it up. You can't control everything. And cancer will make you realize you cannot control everything. So if you have been diagnosed or somebody you know has been diagnosed, my best advice, aside from advocating for yourself and controlling what you can control, is to just take it one day at a time. Other things that if I had to go through this again, insurance. You got to understand insurance really well. That was really stressful. Like, I had to switch insurance plans in the middle of the year, and that was really stressful. So if you are unfortunately diagnosed, just understand your insurance really well. And just because you have that insurance doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stay with it. So you can look at different options. I don't know, like if you work for a company, you probably have certain options or whatever, but now with the marketplaces, you know, you can shop things around. So I would just say know your insurance really well and ask a lot of questions. If you are low income, there are grants, you know, the American Cancer Society, the Susan B. Komen Foundation, they all do wonderful work, and they are there as a resource for many, many different things, from financial to, you know, just support groups. If you have children, support groups for them. So there are a lot of resources out there, and I will link some in the comments. I should stop right now and say, if you've listened this long, thank you. I've hesitated to share this because the idea of me just talking to you about my experience seems a little like selfish, or like in a way like, oh, like I had this experience, because so many people go through this and they're all warriors and they are all amazing. But I know moving forward in my life, I want to do advocacy work. I want to run races to raise money for, you know, other people who are going to have breast cancer. And the best way that I know how to help is to share my journey and the things that I learned along the way. Let's see what else. I get a lot of questions about holistic treatments. And so, yes, I think you have to do whatever is best for you. I opted not to do a crazy amount of research, because you can also get information overload where like so many people are telling you the complete opposite of what doctors tell you, and it is maddening. I mean, then it's just, you'll get like analysis paralysis. So I chose to go with a traditional approach, and I'm going to follow up with holistic stuff. Like the next phase is going to be like red light saunas and detoxing my body and yoga and things that are just nurturing to my body and things to detox my body. And of course, like slow running. I'm not going to be doing any crazy like sprint or speed work, but if you're healthy, you should still do that. And I'm going to share that journey with you too. I'm going to put up a few different videos to try and answer some of the questions that I get in case it's helpful. In regards to nutrition, I do have an oncology nutritionist, and some things that I've integrated in my diet are adaptogenic mushrooms. So I had taken those before, but they are particularly helpful, is based on my understanding, in preventing certain cancers, and breast cancer is one of them, or in helping prevent. So you're looking at reishi, cordyceps, if I'm saying that right, lion's mane, all the adaptogenic mushrooms. So I use mud water. I put that in with my morning coffee or in my oatmeal in the morning. I still take magnesium every single night. It's just really good supplement that helps me sleep. A lot of protein. So I'm really paying attention to protein because I need that to build my strength back up, and it's just really good for the body. So I'm definitely focusing more on getting enough protein for my body and not cutting back on carbs, but just focusing on good, high quality protein. The recommendations that I've been given, whether you agree or disagree, I don't know, drop it in the comments, but is a very vegetable heavy diet and like mainly vegetarian, not dairy free, but like vegetarian and limiting processed meats. And I have done that. I was not a big meat eater before. I really like fish and like lean poultry, I would say, but no sausage, pepperonis, charcuterie type meats, like deli meats, things like that. I just don't eat them at all. So lots more beans, legumes, salmon, stuff like that. And then alcohol. This is a really big one. There's a lot of talk right now about alcohol and cancer. So this is important and this is very transparent. One of the businesses I own is a mobile bartending business. I absolutely did drink regularly. I was not somebody who drank to get drunk. I love a good glass of Cabernet. I did a video actually last year when I was diagnosed. I was in the middle of like a, no alcohol for 50 days, little fast from alcohol. And I love a good glass of Cabernet, but there is a direct link based on studies, especially to breast cancer. So for me, it is not worth it. I actually love my life, like being completely sober and not drinking at all. I sleep better. I feel better. And even like minimal drinking is still linked to breast cancer. So that was it for me. I don't miss it. I just like to sip on mocktails every once in a while. I love coffee. I love sparkling water. So that has since replaced any alcohol. And I do not plan on having any alcohol ever again. To me, it's just really not worth it. Again, you can look up, there are a bunch of studies on this, but it's made headlines recently because now I believe like the Surgeon General is issuing a warning with cancer or with alcohol that it is directly linked to certain cancers. And I believe it's colorectal, breast. I don't know them all, but I know that it is linked to breast cancer. So that was it for me. No alcohol. And lastly, the best part, moving forward. So I really do hope to complete another 50K this year. I am going to listen to my body and not push it this year. My body needs to recover from all the work it did last year to fight this cancer and get through chemo and get through radiation. So I'm really going to be focusing more on quality instead of quantity. And I'm just going to see how my body feels. And if it feels really good, I'll increase my mileage. And if it doesn't, I have no ego. I'm doing it because I love it and I'm doing it to be healthy. And so we'll see what the future brings. I do plan on doing some short distance triathlons later in the year. I still have my qualification for nationals, for Olympic distance nationals. So I do hope that I get to do that. Again, we'll just see. Right now, one of my non-negotiables is getting out in nature for at least a mile a day. And as I finish up treatment, because I do get a little tired from it, I've just decided like I have to take care of me. And even though like I'm a busy mom and I'm busy working, with my small businesses, I have to take care of me. So that was another takeaway that was like, I've been taking care of everybody else and not taking good enough care of myself. And so my non-negotiable moving forward is I am not going to feel guilty at all about carving out an hour a day to get out in nature and walk or run or go to yoga or do lymphatic drainage massage, whatever it is. I needed to slow down a little bit to take care of myself. So if you are in the same boat I'm in and you're coming out of treatment for cancer, have some non-negotiables that you're going to focus on you and take care of you. And, if it's your partner or somebody just cheer them on and reinforce that it's okay for them to take time for themselves and to recover. Because once treatment is over, but there's still a long road to recovery, I think. So I can't really think of anything else. I've been talking a long time. I don't even know if anybody's going to still be with me this long. If you are, thank you. But I guess the final message is, cancer is not a death sentence. I have met some amazing people along the way who are stage 3 and stage 4 and are living vibrant, amazing lives. I think cancer is going to be something that it touches all of our lives in some way, unfortunately, but the more you know, the better. Knowledge is power. And so, and the last message I'll say is, I did learn that through all of this in my treatment, my doctors said, I did incredibly well through my treatment and my body responded really well. And all of them attributed that to me being in good shape going into this. So in radiation, for example, you're much less likely to have complications if you are lean and you don't have super high fat levels and you can hold your breath for long periods of time. Well, maybe not long periods of time, but when I go into radiation, I have to hold my breath while they radiate because it moves my heart and lungs out of the way. So if for no other reason, just keep yourself in good shape, because you never know what you're going to have to go through. Hopefully nothing like this, but if you do, it's better to go into it just having a general fitness level, because your body will respond better to any harsh treatments or surgeries or whatever you need to have. Your body will just bounce back faster. So I thank triathlon and running and the amazing endurance sports community for helping inspire me and staying in good shape so I could really hit this head on. So I hope that this video was helpful, and I really hope it was informative. If you have any questions and I didn't cover something that you want to know, please drop it in the comments. I promise I read every single comment and I will respond to every single one. My Instagram is @Smith Courtney Marie. It's my personal Instagram. You can message me there. Some people have already, and I will do my very best to answer any questions and help support you in any way. Nobody should go through this alone. So if you need to lean on me, I'm here for you. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day. Keep training. Rock on!